The value of college is becoming less and less worth it in today's world and today's economy. The reason why, and this started happening when I was in college. See, let me start with a story. I went to school for computer information systems, New York City College of Technology in Brooklyn, New York. And as I was going, obviously I had to learn some programming, some basic IT tools. I was not the greatest student. It's just my brain just doesn't work in school. And funny enough, in the book Boys and Men by Richard Reeves, the school system is really not built for a boy's brain anyway. So I'm gonna use that as an excuse. Anyway, um, school just didn't work out for me, so I had to take one of those basic classes coming in. So it required me to do more credits than usual, which means more money. Um, Lucky, unlucky, since I didn't have to pay for school due to the fact that I live with a single mom. So the government pretty much took care of my first almost 3 years of college. And when I went to school for computer information systems, the coding languages we were learning, like COBOL, um, Java, C++, they still kind of in use today, but COBOL, like no one uses that anymore. And I remember during my final year, and partially the reason why I stopped going, because I used to have to take breaks to make money, to support myself. Um, and I remember going to my advisor and asking, like, hey, I see this new curriculum for computer information systems. They had mobile programming. The iPhone was just coming onto the market. And I was like, hey, like, I think this will be, great for me to just keep up with the world and what's going on. And they were like, oh, if you switch to this new curriculum, you will have to start again. Pretty much saying that all my credits that I've gathered, with the exception of like your basic credits, I had to take like accounting classes or philosophy, like all those extracurricular ones, not your main class ones. And they were like, oh, you will have to take all those again, which would have meant that I would have been in school for an extra 2 years just to get my degree. And at the time, I thought that was the stupidest thing in the world. So I just was like, no, I'm good. Um, I ended up getting a degree, but I don't use it to this day. And it really gave me a sour taste in my mouth with school. So I decided to go another route and utilize certifications, utilize my own learnings. And over the last, 8 years, I've just utilized YouTube to learn everything, or, you know, listen to podcasts or research on the laptop. You can literally learn anything in a week if you put your mind to it. I understand there's big, 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 big jobs out there, like becoming a surgeon or a lawyer or anything along those lines, nuclear physics or whatever the case may be. Like all of those things require schooling. I get it. But majority of jobs and majority of degrees, you don't really need. Marketing, you can learn that yourself. Software engineering, there were boot camps for that. You can learn it in 3 months. And as long as you study, you put your mind to it, you enjoy doing it, it's easier to come by. Because if you try to learn something that you do not enjoy, trust me, it is an uphill battle. I've tried that before. But I remember listening to a podcast and they were saying how, like, back in the day, you think just 10 to 15 years ago, you would learn a skill and that skill would be valuable for about 15 to 20 years. Nowadays, that skill is only valuable 2 to 3 years. So that means you have to upskill yourself every 2 to 3 years versus back in the day, maybe every 15 to 20 years. Technology is moving at such a fast pace and has been for the last decade or so that schools just can't keep up. Whatever you're learning today, it's just not going to be applicable by the time you get out. So it's like, oh, I learned all these things in school, and then you go into the work world and you're like, oh, I got to relearn things, or like, it's just not worth it. I think college is great for like the community aspect to it, and being able to be communal, work in a team. There are some pros. I'm not going to say it's entirely bad, but for the cost, for the the cost of living is already, becoming more and more astronomical. And then you have to deal with school payment. I think the future of school, and I hope that someone curates this or creates this and it becomes legit in the market and that people view it as something important, is micro degrees. I think that's the route we're taking. I heard about this idea years ago, like 6, 7 years ago, and I was like, "Oh, this is gonna take off," and it hasn't. I don't know why, because micro degree or certification is it's helpful to keep up with what's going on in the world and technological advances instead of getting this archaic, bachelor's, master's degree when everything you're learning is probably not that, you know, great. Most of our learning comes from experience, from actually being in there, from actually working alongside somebody that does it. You know how you become a good salesperson? You sit by a good salesperson and you listen to them for months. You know how you become a good plumber? You sit under a plumber and you go and you work with them, and over the next few months you pretty much pick it up and you can become close as good as that person. Your learning goes from, they probably took 10 years to learn, but because you work alongside them, you cut that pretty much in half, maybe more. So nowadays it's not about, and that's why, internships are great because you get to work around people and that's how you gather skills. But for the most part, you can learn everything online. You can learn anything as long as you learn it, you immediately apply it, and you keep doing that. You make mistakes, you work with people who allow you to make mistakes, give you feedback on those mistakes, and then you pick up and you try again, and you try again, and you try again, and that's how you actually learn. The school system was built to teach us how to be factory workers. It wasn't built for the world we live in today, the technological advances, you know? So I don't know. I personally think there's going to be a mass exodus. It's already happening, especially with men, that they're just deciding to opt out of school completely. And that's not for the reasons of like, yeah, I'm going to go become an entrepreneur, or I'm going to go and work, but I'm not going to, do the traditional route because I'm going to work. I'm going to gather skills, maybe do certifications, maybe work under somebody that is important, stay close to a mentor, other things that are out there versus going to school. And I know women are killing it. They're going to school. The work world and technology and like having to use your brain more than your body. The work world is becoming more built for women. I was reading an article on Jonathan Haidt's Substack, and he had a guest writer, Richard Reeves of Boys and Men, and he was talking about he's writing a book on the rise of depression in young people and women and young boys and young girls, all that stuff. Um, he mentioned that it was like the work world is becoming, the things you have to do in majority of jobs, white collar jobs at least, require much more thinking, which biologically and historically women are better at than men. We were great for brawn and strength and utilizing our body, our physical labor back in the day, but that's becoming less and less. Not saying we can't do it. We can, absolutely. It's just men are opting out less and opting out of it completely more and more. So it's something to pay attention to, and I'm a fan of being proactive and catching things early, but most of the world isn't, unfortunately. And this is why I create videos, because I want to put it out there. I want you guys, I hope that you guys see this and see the problem and start looking at things with a critical lens and understanding your gut and saying this is not right and doing something about it in your own little community, in your own little work. Like, all it takes is a few small lights, right, to eradicate the darkness. And there's a lot of darkness covering our world right now. And unfortunately, the education system is not, it's not helping. It was a pillar of light back in the day, but now it's becoming less so. I'm a fan of education. I'm a fan of growth and learning and becoming a better human. But this school system thing, It's just not it. We need to find a new way. What do you think?